As we go into 2026, what are we looking at? How would you describe where science stands today compared to this time last year?
Well, when we left off in June, we quickly determined that we were going to come back. Uh, and what that operation was going to look like is significantly different than the operation that we left from 2025, summer 2025. The first thing was that we did decide that we were going to lateral through the zone. You know, as you recall, we had gas to surface, but it was inundated with water. Um, so this isn't a stimulation operation. This is a drilling operation followed by a stimulation operation. So it's a lot more intensive than what we had last year. When we determined that MJ2 suited our needs better than MJ1 for the drilling portion of it, uh, we decided to go that route. Originally, when we were first kicking it around, we would lateral off just off of MJ1, um, but that left us no room for mitigation. So the point being is this is a full drilling operation, similar to what we've done in the past. We have just about 2,000 meters of drilling to do. The first half pretty much vertical, the second half straight horizontal, followed by a multi-stage stimulation operation. And so far, we've done only one stage at a time. We did do 3 stages on MJ2 at depths of below 4,000 meters and as deep as 5,000 meters. But this is going to be multi-stage, up to 10 stages, all in the same zone. So we're going to try and exploit as much of the potential reservoir as possible, doing one stage right after another. Each stage will take between 24 and 36 hours. So it'll be like 10 straight days of nonstop stimulation, followed by a flowback. So a lot of stuff that Israel has never seen before, once again, here we go, is coming in. And we're excited. I mean, this is a good opportunity for us to really exploit the potential pay zone area for an extended period of, an extended distance, as opposed to just a single open hole or cased hole for that matter, 4.5 inches, for example, on MJ2 and MJ1. We're gonna have 900 meters of drilled hole through what the geologists see as the pay zone. So good opportunity that if it's in one pocket and not in another, we're not going to miss it by just a short distance. We're hoping to bisect the entire thing, and um, looking forward to seeing what's truly there.
Now, help me understand. A lot of people think they know what goes on in Texas with horizontal drilling or in the United States. Maybe say some of the similarities and some of the differences for people who are trying to understand exactly what we're doing.
The actual operation would be similar to what they're doing in the other or in the United States. We're using directional drilling tools to lateral off. That's all the same. The difference being is in the U.S., as we've mentioned multiple times over the years, they have all sorts of service companies at their beck and call. Because of the financial restrictions, you could say, and logistic restrictions, the fact that we would have to have a whole bunch of coil tubing, wireline, um, slick line services in location for long periods of time for one-off, one-on jobs. We've designed this basically with as little equipment as possible, meaning I don't need coil tubing and I don't need wireline services. We're designing this operation, this lateral and stimulation and flowback, with the drilling rig, with the drilling equipment that we own, and we're only bringing in the actual stimulation and well testing equipment. So that's different. So that requires a little bit different design on how we complete the bottom section. I'm not going to get too technical with that because it wouldn't make sense to most of our listeners here. But the completion string at the bottom would be different than conventional uh, horizontal and lateral wells in the US because we won't be using perforation equipment because it doesn't make sense to us to bring in wireline and or coil tubing um, because the cost didn't justify the benefit. So that will be a little bit different. But the overall theory behind it and how we're going to stimulate the well is the same as we did last April. And it's very similar to what we did on MJO2 a few years ago, but there are just some minor differences there.
Yeah,
So we have a, go ahead, Rob.
yeah, kind of just add a little bit more color to what Monty is saying. I mean, we just don't have the luxury of call out services. So, we've got a fantastic team of engineers that we use to consult with that have designed a pretty robust program. And, like Monty said, it'd be the first one-off again in Israel. And I think that, with the targeted approach that we have, the known source rock that we're in, the characteristics of the reservoir, I think we're positioned very well in coming into 26 and to further have operations throughout that area. One of the benefits of the 3D that we performed out there, and then the additional wells that we drilled, and then re-entries, etc., is that verified a lot of the structure. And historically, when we look back on the more mature basins and fields in the U.S. and Canada, is they have so many analogs from multiple wells drilled there that it can tie into their data set, right? Or we just didn't have that luxury, but with the information we gleaned from the re-entries and the samples that we took, we're very comfortable that it's matching everything that we've seen in that data set. So I think we're definitely in a good position in 26. We're excited to get in there. And like Monty said, we have a 900 to 1,000 meter worth of lateral that's in that prospected area, and we're very bullish with it.
What would you say? We have a lot of new shareholders over the last year in there listening in and reading all of our updates and so on. What would you say is the biggest milestones in the last year, the top milestones that led us to exactly where we are right now?
Well, in my opinion, and Rob can correct me, the only one that really matters is hydrocarbon to surface.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the biggest thing is that, when we had the recovery of the gas to surface, it was, tested very well, kind of what we anticipated with potential light hydrocarbons and gas in the formation. I think that's number one. And I think number two is the tiresome interaction with the immigration in Israel in order to get some of the visa requirements changed for specialized onshore rig workers, where in the past they've historically tied their salary to the high tech sector. So your entry level position on a rig with the salary requirements they previously had were C-suite level salaries. These individuals were what they wanted were not industry norm anywhere in the world, regardless of what area you work in the world. So it was a lot of back office work from Jeff on the Zion side, and then our immigration attorneys, and this went right through the Knesset, everything, in order to be changed where it's applicable, right? So that was a major milestone for us to be able to have multi-entry visas year long, this, and then the salaries that are industry standard for this particular work. So, the two biggest highlights that we have is one, having the hydrocarbon to surface, two, having the ability to finally have the immigration services understand that specialized workers don't need to be on the same playing field as software engineers and anything to do with the high tech sector, right?
A question we get a lot is that about the hydrocarbons to the surface. Why do we say it that way and not we have a discovery, we have found oil, found, you know, that kind of language? Why do we use the language hydrocarbons to the surface?
Well, the first and foremost with it is before you announce a discovery or you do this, you have to have a continuous flow, right? So, you know, when we're able to liberate the hydrocarbons and have them reach surface, if we had a continuous flow of it without the water cut that we had, then you could probably say, okay, we're flowing X amount per day, or you know, we're having to kind of surge the well, you know, try to create an environment where you know, that oil or gas can outrun the water. We have to do that. We have to surge it several times in order to do that. We can't really get a basis of what the commerciality flow would be on that. So going into the formation like we were going into, that gives us a whole lot more runway in order to liberate more of the hydrocarbons. So they'll outrun, if there is any further water cut in there, the hydrocarbon can outrun that. And at that point, when we do the extensive well testing, we can say that this is the commerciality of this well, right? So it is very important to delineate hydrocarbon to surface versus discovery. Is that, you know, once we have sustained flow rates, have a good understanding of the characteristics of the reservoir, what it's going to produce, at that point we can come out with the verbiage that would be applicable to what we have, right? So, you know, it is a major milestone. It's a technical feat to get this, just due to our formation, the tight rock, the complexities down there. You know, tectonically, you're on two different plates. You know, your Arabian plate and African plate, so it's very active. We saw that on the MJ02 when we had some of the shales migrating, geologically migrating. So, you know, that's when we deployed the DWC drilling while casing methodology in order to get us through that. So, I mean, that was the first time it's ever been done on shore there, etc. So it is very important to be able to put it into perspective and not overpromise anything. You know, we're being as transparent can be when it comes to when we say we have hydrocarbons at surface. We do. We understand the chemical composition of the hydrocarbons that come to surface, and it's indicative of the formation that we're in. So I think when we exploit it and open it up a bit more, we're going to be in decent shape, and we'll be able to come up with more of a terminology that people understand. I'll put it that way.
Now, you both have a lot of experience all around the world, hundreds of wells, maybe more than that. Where we are, is this unusual? Is it a pretty typical step? How can people understand from your experience where we are and your perspective of where we are with this well?
We're right in the zone where everybody starts. The only difference between us and any other player that's doing true exploration is we have no ability to have call out services just because the indigenous market within Israel doesn't support it. So it becomes a logistical challenge, a hurdle. The geopolitical conflicts that happen sever ties with conventional providers of services that we used to use. The Abraham Accord comes in, it opens up new windows. So you have the logistical hurdles where your timing is instead of 24 hours, you're talking 5 to 6 months on certain things, 1 year on other things, just the supply and demand in the industry. The scope of the projects that we're on, it's tough for a bigger group to come in and sustain operations for a one-off operation type thing. So where we're at is typical of any oil and gas group that's starting up. The only thing why we have such long, prolonged timelines is the fact that we do not have indigenous providers in the region. That's kind of where we've gone vertically integrated with the drilling rig, because before we waited 3 years, 5 years to have a rig come over. And it's a great expense. So, vertical integration for us is probably going to be the ticket as we go and eventually hit a production level and do production drilling, is that, we'll start stacking on other long lead time services, cementing, wireline, that kind of stuff. We'll bring that in house, and it just makes the operations more cost effective and more efficient, because we have a good talent pool that we can draw on that are able to operate all this equipment for us. And, we can have that on a contract basis, but we own the equipment. So as we further the growth of Zion, the vertical integration is going to be the key, and we can start normalizing and trimming down timelines.
You mentioned starting up. You mean starting up with a particular well and project, not overall our exploration efforts, correct?
That's correct. So normally what you do is you have inventory. Your geologists and geophysicists, they'll pick inventory. You go after the highest probability targets. And then once you start understanding those, you've drilled a few wells in that, and this is what you planned has come to fruition. Then we go to the next one. We figure out how to exploit the particular reservoir we're in, and we'll eventually shoot some more seismic in the area to further our data set. And we have a lot of acreage to explore, so that's the nice thing about it. We're well into our exploration phase. We just have a lot more acreage to go after as well. And we have additional targets identified with the G&G team. They during the drilling operations, they're confirming what we're seeing with cuttings, but at the same time, they're also scouts in advance looking at the geology and all the geophysical data set in order to confirm that, yes, this is a structure that closes this way or that way, type thing. So it's pretty much all hands on deck all the time. And we're one of the benefits that we have is we're nimble as an organization. Mm-hmm. So we can pivot very quick, and that's the key to success in the Israeli market, is you have to be able to overcome the dynamics, and they change sometimes daily, but with the ability for us to be nimble, leverage relationships that we have in the region, potentially bring in specialized equipment, overall it impacts the success of us on a positive trait. So
I think that's an important point you bring up, that we're actively looking past this particular project. We're looking ahead, making plans, and looking at aspects beyond just this project. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. You can never be just a today guy in the industry. You have to be looking out for tomorrow, the week after, the week after, the week after, because there could be some strategic synergies that come into the market where you're working that you can use to bring down the cost per well. And you can also have the ability to design something on some of the inventory that's been picked by your G&G group, where we're continually engineering on the forward side plus the current side on the current well. So it's one of the things that I like and enjoy about the industry the most, is that you don't sit idle. You never will.
So Monty, from a operations perspective, when you're sitting there thinking, what are we expecting in the coming months?
We've got a lot to do before we actually get into the drilling. We're upgrading our generator system so we can supply the necessary power to do this directional drilling. And we're going through that right now. That's a 2-week process, for example. We've got other upgrades that are happening. Then we have to temporarily plug and abandon MJ1, the well that we're currently sitting on top of. And we have to put back the water monitoring well to appease the Ministry of Water, and it's required by the Ministry of Energy. So we have an operation that has to take place over MJ1. Then we have to go through the 5-year recertification of our rig as required by the IADC as well as the Ministry of Energy. And that's a very comprehensive inspection. It could take 4 to 6 weeks. Uh, that requires rigging down, disassembling multiple components on the rig so they can look inside. It's looking for hairline cracks on critical support structures, as well as lifting equipment. It's testing all of your pressure lines, your flow lines. So it's a very in-depth inspection, and it's time consuming. You're only able to do this inspection during daylight hours. So I can't cut the time by working 24 hours, for example. It requires cranes and, so it's a lengthy thing. Then once that we're through that inspection, we have to move the entire rig back over to MJO2. And
And
if you recall when we,
that's only a
yes,
few feet, correct? We're not,
it's 7.5 meters, but you're moving hundreds of thousands of kilos worth of large structure. And we have to do a little bit of pad preparation. You got to understand that this drilling rig, this mast is going to carry a load of drill pipe 4,000 meters, and it's suspended by the mast of the rig. So it has to be perfectly plumb and level. So we'll have to get surveyors in, we'll have to regrade, we'll have to reset the pad. So we have to move all of the drilling rig off of the pad, get it perfectly level, get it regraded, get it reset, and then move all of that equipment back over to MJO2. So the distance between the two wells, not very far, but we do have to completely move the entire rig off the pad and get it set. Any deviation from plumb, you run the risk of that rig toppling over, because it's suspending the entire drill string all the way down to 4,000 plus meters. So that takes time. That'll take a month to rig down, move back. Then we have to plug and abandon the bottom section of MJO2. It's still open from our work that finished up in 2022. So we'll run a couple of cement plugs, and then we'll go into the drilling operation. So a lot of activity that needs to take place between now and the actual fun stuff, if you will, when we start the drilling campaign. And then we've got a couple of months of drilling and casing. We're going to drill in two sections. We'll have a 8-inch open hole section followed by a 6-inch open hole section. 8-inch will be cased with 7-inch casing and 4.5-inch completion string. And then we'll be ready to move into the well testing phase. So a lot of activities. We've got it all lined out right now. We're hitting our target dates so far. We haven't come across any delays as of yet. So everything's on schedule. It's just it does take time, and there's nothing that we can do to speed it up. The guys are doing, like I said, we're hitting our target dates continually right now. So everything's good. Everything's good on our end, but it does take time.
Rob, earlier you mentioned geopolitical realities. We've gone through several years of war in Israel, and it's mostly winded down. But there's situations in Iran. What could you say to people to better understand how all of those geopolitical realities affect our operations?
First and foremost, on the security front, we don't have any impact on that. We're in a very safe region. Even during the major portions of the conflict, we were safeguarded in that region. One of the really harsh impacts that we felt by it would be our vendors that we used to purchase, chemicals from, etc., which was a nice 5-day sail across the Mediterranean, port to port. The friction between Turkey and Israel is definitely we've had to pivot on that in order to bring chemicals in from Eastern Europe, and so it becomes a little bit more of a logistical hurdle to get around. But kind of goes back to being nimble on that, you know, but on an operational front, we've had to shift gears with vendors, and some of these have a little bit more of a lead time getting stuff in, but security, I'm very comfortable with it in the region. In fact, the rig crew was extremely happy to get back from Eastern Europe. We didn't have any dropouts or anything that they were worried about it. They really enjoy working with Zion. They enjoy the project we're on, and they're looking forward to us succeeding on it. So one thing that would be, you know, great to mention, kind of what Monty was saying with the MJ1 well. One of the prerequisites that we've come across with the Ministry of Water is the water well monitoring. We opened a section of the MJ1 well that's quite deep, that they're monitoring a reservoir down there that it's not common, and it does require a lot of technical planning and engineering wise in order to keep this so they can monitor it with the remote monitoring equipment. We don't have an option other than to have that online, or we will not be permitted to do our drilling operation plan on MJ2. So that it, you know, it's fairly steep regulations when it comes to that. So, you know, that has some time built into it. Like Monty said, when we lay the rig down for the CAD inspection, you know, we're also sliding it. So we're maximizing the efficiency on the operational side of it, where conventionally you would pull it down, you would do this, then you'd kind of do this type thing. So we're blending the efficiency where when we're sliding the rig over about 21 foot, 22 foot, at the same time, we're also performing the required inspection for heavy lifting equipment, etc. And there's certain companies that do that. One of the companies that's authorized to do that, they're out of Romania. They're keyed up. Their target dates are there. Their visas and people are ready to go. Or we've used them in the past. They're extremely efficient on it. So we're very excited in order to get this over with, get the MJ1 water well monitoring back online, so we can kind of have the Ministry of Water happy. It's one of the hardest ones to keep happy, but we'll make sure they're happy.
Right, and it makes sense because Israel water's a precious commodity as well, and so that's something we have to deal with. Now, how would you encourage Zion supporters and shareholders in the coming year? Monty, you mentioned a scripture at the bottom, or you put a scripture reference at the bottom of a recent email where you were talking about some of these updates. And the scripture reads, "This is what the Lord says, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am the Lord your God, who teaches you what is best for you, who directs you in the way you should go." How does that affect your work? Why'd you put that in there?
Well, to me, that verse speaks volumes to the operations that we have in Israel, because it's so unconventional. Um, Everything seems to be new technology that's coming in, and that's or not new technology, but new to Israel. And this company truly is driven by the hand of God. It's His timing. Um, it's his plan. I can lay down the best plans on paper that I think is going to happen, and it never goes according to what I think. We always have changes, even like in pre-planning. For example, we were anticipating going straight off of MJ1. Now we're going back to MJ2. It's a lot of that kind of stuff. And when you look at what you first think you're going to do and what we actually end up doing, um, it's always different. And then that coincides with, James 4, it's God's will. And we take it day by day because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And we have faith that God's going to get us where we need to go with the people and equipment and engineering that's going to get us there.
Rob, anything you would say to encourage our supporters and shareholders going into this new year?
Yeah, just, continue to uplift us in operations, believe it or not, your prayer behind the scenes goes a long way with us, because there is, like Monty said, we have a lot of obstacles that get in the way that, you can have 1,000 plans around, but it's truly the intervention of God that brings us through some of these things and opens up new opportunities for us. So it's just, the continued prayer that we receive, the support, the verbal support that we get from shareholders and supporters of the organization. It's a difficult environment, but I think that it's testament to everybody's belief, what the what the Lord's promised, and us continue to stay steadfast with, it's just faith first. And one of the benefits is that we all received the talent in different areas, and God's hand brings it together, and you have the unison of a family out there on location. It's kind of like it's multiple countries that come together out there, and everybody has the same vision. So that's driven by we know who, and it's just a matter of staying faithful with it. I know that in life, like anywhere in your life, my life, is you're going to hit peaks and troughs. That's just the reality. But the most steadfast thing you can do is when you're stuck, ask a simple question. Ask God, what can I do? What can I do? Simple thing like that, and He'll give us scripture. He'll navigate around it. And it's a matter of just staying positive, because there's always going to be a glimmer of light in darkness. So even during difficult times that a lot of people would walk away with and turn their back on, we've gone head on into it. We've accepted the challenges, we've navigated them, and look where we're at today. We have a very prospected area that we're entering, and this could be the kickstart to get us to what John Brown's vision was.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. This has been highly informative for me. I know it will be for our supporters, our shareholders. Thank you so much for your work, and we'll do this again sometime again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.